obviously disappointed with the way that the game was unfolded. A couple of things that were very, very influential on the game here tonight. Our lack of clinical edge in front of goal, opportunities to get our noses in front, and in a tight game, that was always going to be important. Second period, I thought we started very well. Again, some opportunities to get back on level terms and maybe make a bit of a game of it. The other side of it, so finishing was a difficulty. The other one was obviously the officiating. I think it was very, very easy for everyone to see in the crowd that this inexperienced referee, which is what he is, I think we looked and saw 10 games in MLS, looked way, way out of his depth here tonight. And it wasn't just some of the decisions that were made, regarding penalties. I in fact felt as though they were both penalties against us. It certainly looked as though they were clear-cut fouls. That's not what I'm criticising here. There were so many other decisions within the run of play. In fact, leading into the second penalty, looked like a foul on Daniel, which was obviously frustrating for him, and I'm sure that was part of his reaction. But a very, very disappointing night, all-round result, and of course losing two players. We have a monitor behind us, and we're able to look at that. Although we're obviously not allowed to use that as a point of argumentative reference, if you like. I think as we saw it, we've had no explanation at this point, of course, but it looked like both of the handballs, especially, was it the second one from the corner? It looked like it hit the lad's leg before it hit his arm. And I think, when you're in that situation, if it comes off another body part and the player can't move, the question obviously has to be, in my mind, where there's so many complications now about handball inside the penalty box, what is, what isn't. Does it interfere still by hitting his hand, somebody behind him that's coming onto the ball? If it does, I have to say that it's probably still handball, especially in such a tight situation. Listen, those calls, I'm not okay with. I'd love to have seen one of them go our way, of course, and I think in other circumstances we may well have done. But there were so many different situations that it just looked flummoxed about. There were clear-cut fouls that we made that were so obviously fouls that he just let go. And what happens then is you got a serious game here. 2 versus 4, 3 points behind us, game in hand, Philadelphia. It was always going to be competitive because of that reason. We've had very, very good games against Philly in the past, so expect that it's going to be a like-minded game. You've got to have somebody in the middle who's going to be strong enough to deal with that situation. And it was obvious from minute one that he just couldn't quite appreciate what a foul was, consistency with him making those decisions. And then, of course, the game gets away from him. The players know that. They're not silly. They understand and see somebody who's just a million miles away from where they know that official should be. So now certain people start taking advantage of it. They start creating situations, as a number of their players did, without going for the ball, making a back, running into the player attacking the ball, which is exactly what happened for the second penalty. But the referee doesn't understand that. He doesn't have enough experience. He doesn't have enough knowledge So therefore, they get away with that. And by the way, we got away with some as well that weren't quite as influential. That's not the way it should be. A game can't be dictated like that.
Coach, in terms of your both players from both teams lost their heads a little bit. In terms of your own players' reactions, how did you view that, and what's your opinion on the way they reacted?
You want me to repeat that again? You're playing in 85-degree heat, humidity, both teams physically giving everything they got. Both teams. Philly are a good side. That's why they've done so well so often. So it was always going to be a challenge. You got the frustration from our side that we could control, which is missing opportunities. Then you got the frustration of what we've just spoken about, an official that isn't consistent at best, by the way. And then you've got a situation where fatigue, the heat of the evening is overwhelming. The weight of those decisions and choices to go a man down to obviously then have to work a little bit harder for our group. All of those things add up. So, look, I'm not condoning it in any way, shape or form. I don't think there was anything. I didn't see anything. I'm not even sure it was a sending off. Are you? Was there anyone in that group who threw a punch? What happened? What I saw, and I could be totally wrong because I've not seen it back. There was a tangle. Shaq threw the boy to the ground. There was a little bit of handbags at 3 paces. Bit of pushing and shoving. Yellow card? Absolutely. Frustrated, yellow card. Reds for both. The group that came together, was there anything going on around that? I didn't see that. If you'd have said to me, I don't know, Alex has come charging in and he's cuffed somebody from behind. Okay, I didn't see that. And nobody pointed that out beyond the sending off of the 2 guys. Again, unnecessary. Over the top from where I stood. Yeah. But I'm always going to be, obviously, seeing it through maybe a little bit more rose-coloured glasses than I should.
Yeah, Gary, you mentioned finishing and missed chances. Obviously, Hani had a couple chances. He hit the bar. Fafa hit the woodwork a couple times. Teal had a couple really good chances. When Hani's not scoring, it feels like, again, no one else is stepping up. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Listen, I do. When we don't score goals, and we've not scored a goal in 4 out of the last 5 games, and I think tonight's more of a unique situation for all of the things we've spoken about. But there is no doubt about it. If we're going to fight for this top 4, if we're going to be in a good spot, we've got to get something out of the game. And I don't know if anyone in the room would disagree with me, but in the last 4 games that we've been beaten, I thought we put on a very decent display in Chicago after going a goal down. And on the balance of play, should have got something out of the game. I thought we got well beaten in Columbus. They were better than us and deserved to win. And I thought in Montreal, we were poor in the first half, conceded first, and then deserved something out of the game on our second half exploits. To your point, Ben, you're absolutely right. Somebody else in the DC game, Randall stepped up. But there are too many guys at the moment that look tense and tight and lacking maybe a little bit of belief in front of goal. I'm not sure that was the case for the couple of efforts that hit the woodwork. I thought Fafa's header was a terrific header from the corner. And Hani is a coat of paint away from, finishing and it being a really good move. Now, the ones we're going to look back on are going to be Teals, for sure. And I'm sure he's sitting in there thinking exactly the same to himself. It's a great chance. It's a good move. It's bright, purposeful play early on. And also a very influential time. But the one thing I do know, and as I look back on a lot of games that I've been involved in, if you're creating chances, there's always an opportunity for those guys to break through that barrier of disappointment and frustration and get themselves on a roll. If you're not creating chances, that's a totally different story. And now there's no opportunity. There's a real lack of cohesion and maybe belief in the group that we're going to do that. So I'm delighted where we're at with the chances we created, but I'm also really disappointed we haven't been able to get something out of the game again. That's not a good theme for the group. I'd have to look back at it again. You know, we'll get the video footage and we'll decide whether or not it's worth having an appeal on that one. Of course, losing 2 players towards the weekend again is not beneficial for the group either. Whether or not that hearing can be made or taken before Saturday's game, we've got a quick turnaround. And of course, I think most of the time, the competitions committee will, if they feel as though there's been enough, false or aggressive nature shown, I'm sure they'll uphold that. And I would hazard a guess that the referee will say it was very aggressive actions. It's just a shame it was in keeping with a lot of other things that went on. If it was a one-off situation, and he went, I'm not having that. That's a sending off. But we got this absolute shopping list of situations that both groups will look at and go, how has that happened?
Gary, as frustrating as it is, as you already stated, with everything that happened tonight, my question goes this way. It looks like, and I agree with you, it looks like in Chicago here, Nashville could have, if not win the game, they could at least get a point out of each one of those games. How do you see the team, the group frustrated because of the lack of not scoring chances, but actually goals from all those situations?
Yeah, honestly, I think when we get an opportunity to calm down and the emotion of the evening has gone, and we can look back on some of those opportunities and some of our play, I think all the guys can and will need to be reminded of just what they've produced here tonight. Because it's easy for that to be clouded by 2 sendings off and a poor refereeing performance and a defeat and no goals, because that's human nature. We want to add points to the board. It's our job to do that. But as I've said to one of the other questions here, the group's moved I do believe, in a more positive direction. This is a good Philadelphia team. And I thought there were definitely opportunities for us to not only have taken the lead, but to have got back in the game and given ourselves a chance to go on and win the game maybe. That vital piece of the equation of putting the ball in the back of the net, of course, has been in history, a difference between teams winning titles and silverware, and you've got to have more than one player normally who can find the back of the net and give you a bit of a shot in the arm at important times in games, tight games, top 4 games. We've got to be able to do that. But I think the last thing maybe to say on this is, and I think, however long you've been watching football, you will have seen on many occasions where teams go on a good run, 10 games unbeaten, and the quality of the game probably hasn't changed to what you've seen out there tonight. But there was that clinical edge, and we were able to score at good times. Guys go missing for Gold Cup. We have some injuries, no different to anyone else. But the momentum was lost. In some cases, not through any fault of our own. Guys had taken away Fafa, Jacob and Walker at one point, and of course, Annabelle, who I believe has gone through to the final tonight, so good luck to him. But that's important to the cohesion of the group as well. and all of those guys were around in that 10-game unbeaten run. So there's a time to say, we got a problem. And there's a time to say, you know what, it's a really good thing going on here. We're not quite getting the luck maybe we were in those 10 games. And we're certainly not as clinical in front of goal as we were. But I certainly won't look at it and think to myself, you know, we've come majorly off the rails here and we're looking like a completely different team. I don't think that's the case. There have been many, many factors tonight why we haven't got any points out of the game. I didn't notice anything different about their group when we went into that second half. In fact, the guys came out with a very spirited and positive approach. I think in that space of time, we had 2 penalty calls turned down. We hit the woodwork twice. And Sean, you know, off balance, misses what looked like a reasonably open goal. So I don't think we can say that their actions made life any more difficult than they usually do. They're a very competitive side, and I didn't notice that. Unfortunately, as I've said on multiple occasions here, I thought the officiating enabled the players on both teams to make choices and get caught up in situations that I think on most other occasions they wouldn't have, because somebody who's stronger would have kept a grip of that. And the game lost some rhythm and some control, I think, because of the way that it was managed. There's always lessons to be learned. And the lessons to be learned tonight, some are very simple ones that a lot of those players will have seen before. In tight games, you got to get yourself in a good position, and you got to take advantage of the opportunities you create. It wasn't a case of not being able to create enough, which of course is a positive. The opportunities were there, which is a positive. The biggest lesson for us tonight, if we want to be one of those teams that are being spoken about as a silverware group, we've got to be able to contain ourselves. We've got to be able to manage situations better. We can't lose our control or lack of professionalism. And I think there were some moments there tonight, and Daniel's incredibly remorseful in there. You know, the challenges that end up being penalties, and more importantly, the second one, you know, puts us in a tough spot with 10 men going into the final moments. So, always lessons to be learned. I'm always proud of what the guys produce and put on and how they go about their business. Tonight is no different. But if there's anything we can take out of it, if we're going to be that team, we've got to stay focused and we've got to keep our cool.
Yeah, tough game, obviously. Plenty of chances to get back in the game. Philly's a good team. I don't think there's any surprises that we knew it was going to be a tough game. 2 teams that I think play more so now this year, very similar styles. So we almost canceled each other out at times. First half was exciting. I think it was a pretty open game for a midweek game. Plenty of chances. I thought we had a few opportunities where if we were to get the first goal, I think that probably changes the trajectory and the outcome of the game. I think that's kind of been a little bit of an Achilles heel for us is, when we score the first goal and we stay on top of teams, the results tend to go our way. When we concede the first goal, seems like we're playing catch up and we create chances and we're struggling to score that goal to get us back in the game. So that was the story of the night. it's unfortunate that we lost at home. It's been a while since we've lost at home, and so we just have to recover, get some confidence back, go to Cincinnati, and get 3 points.
Yeah, there's two-part. First is when you have the chances that you do have in a game like that. What's it been like in the locker room when you know you hit the framework 3 times? The second part is Gary mentioned that as experienced players, you guys know when maybe a ref has lost control or is at his or her depths. Were you able to see that, witness that, feel that from your teammates, but also Philly as well?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. I mean, the game obviously, it delved into chaos there towards the end. So, make of that what you will. I'm not going to talk about the ref. As far as our, I guess, confidence or lack of confidence in front of goal, we tend to go through these little periods. I think every season, Hani gets hot, scores a bunch of goals. We have some other guys contributing in front of the net, and things seem to be going our way, and some fortunate bounces seem to go our way. And I think early in the season, we were playing well. We were scoring plenty of goals, and, we were getting some bounces that went our way. And now, I guess if you want to, take away the DC game, there's been a lot of road games, and then now you add in this Philly game where, we just quite haven't been able to be clinical in front of goal. And, we've seen it in the past, when he's not able to be that catalyst for us, we have to have other guys step up. I mean, that's just the reality of a long season. And so I've said it before, and I'll say it again up here. There's no lack of confidence in the guys that we have in the locker room. We know that we have good players in front of goal. We know that we can score goals. We know that we're in a dangerous attacking team. I mean, it's absolutely insane to me how we didn't score in one of the sequences that we had tonight in front of goal. So I would be more concerned if we weren't creating any chances whatsoever. Philly, full credit to Philly. They were scrambling for large portions of that second half, keeping us off the board, saving the ball off the line, a couple maybe handballs, maybe not, that don't go our way. So when you go through a little bit of a dip in a tough part of the season, sometimes these calls don't go your way, and sometimes the ball doesn't fall right for you. And that's just something that, as an experienced team, we understand that. We recognize that. The sky's not falling. We're not going to get down on ourselves. We're not going to feel sorry for ourselves. We'll recover and get ready for a massive game in Cincinnati where, if we go in there and get 3 points, that's obviously a big boon for the rest of our season.
Dax, during the match, you started over 400 matches. How do you keep a cool head? How do you stay professional and this kind of everything that's going on?
Yeah, I think you just have to realize that you can only control what you can control. When I was younger, I used to let exterior factors really get to me and really bother me, and I used to lose my head. And I to be honest, I was close a couple times tonight to losing my head because obviously some decisions don't go our way, and it's frustrating. And I think to a certain extent, if you want to look at the penalties and the red cards, you can say that we definitely lost a little bit of composure tonight. And that's something as a veteran team that we have to make sure when the game is kind of flying off the rails that we do stay calm. And that's on guys like myself, guys like Walker, guys like Joe, right? The experienced guys, to make sure that we keep a cool head, because when the game's 1-0, we feel like we're not only going to get back in the game with an equalizing goal, we feel like we're going to win the game. I mean, that was a feeling I had in the second half. So that's what kept me calm, even when things are kind of going on around us that we can't control. So look, it's a frustrating night for all of us. We're not happy about the loss, but like I said, the games, they don't stop. So we have to regroup and refocus for a really big game this weekend.
Dex, I know because of your experience actually, you probably say that everyone in that locker room is ready, should be ready to step up and have the game. But I mean, how much of the fact that Jacob has to go to the national team, Papa, Oliver's still there, and even Zimmerman.
Yep.
How much of that has actually caught you guys rhythm? what you see in today?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have guys that are going to play for the national team and represent their country, I think that's a credit to their club form, right? And it's a credit to what a good team we have that the national team wants to call in players from our team because we know we have good players. So that's the first thing. That's always an honor, and I know that I take a lot of pride in watching those guys go play for the national team. I mean, that's something our club should be proud of, our city should be proud of. So that's what that's what management prepares for. That's why we have depth. That's why we have guys that are called upon to step up in moments where we are missing some key players. And so I don't think this is unique to us. I think that this is something that every team, some teams are affected more so than others, but every team in the league has to deal with call-ups, suspensions, injuries. This is just a reality of a long season. And so I've got full faith in every single guy in our locker room to be able to step up when their number's called and put in a good performance. And so I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that whoever steps on the field against Cincinnati is going to be ready to go and is going to be at the level that's required to get a good result.
Yeah, Dax, you talked a little bit about kind of creating chances and finishing. Gary talked about it too, just even in these last couple of games, how Chicago and Montreal played. It feels like you guys should have taken something.
Yep.
With creating kind of a similar amount of chances to when you went on a beat run, what do you think the difference is, like between finishing the same amount of chances and now creating them and not necessarily having that finishing touch? How do you get back to finishing?
Yeah, I mean it's tough to pinpoint, right? I mean if I knew, I would sprinkle some magic dust on all of our players and we'd be able to find the back of the net with ease. But I think it's just these ebbs and flows of a season where sometimes you're riding a crazy vein of confidence where it seems like every bounce is going your way. It seems like the balls that hit the post tonight and the balls that hit the post against Chicago, instead of bouncing off the post and going out, they bounce off the post and go in. Or, they bounce off the post, go to one of our players, and they finish it in the back of the net for an easy tap in, right? You can't really explain these things. And so I mentioned it a little bit before. It's just going to take one ball to go in the back of the net, right? It's just going to take one guy to step up and say, when I get a chance, I'm going to bury it. And I think throughout our existence, for the most part, that's been Hani and a couple of other guys. And so whether it is Hani, whether it's someone who maybe doesn't get on the score sheet as much, whether it's a set piece, whether it's an own goal, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter how it goes in the net. It just has to go in the back of the net for us because I think right now you take the DC game out of it. We were on the road for a few games and we just haven't been able to quite get over the hump with regards to scoring goals. And so that's something that I think, every team goes through. We're no exception. But I can promise you we're staying positive. We have full faith in everyone in our locker room to be able to come out of this little rut that we're in.
Last time your team played Philadelphia, it was a 1-1 tie. And your team had the advantage and fell 8-3 in the first half. Do you feel like it was Philadelphia's game plan to muddy the game up through the course of the game, or not really?
I think in general, Philadelphia, they have a very distinct style of play. It's a physical game whenever you play against Philadelphia. I think that they've proven throughout the last 4 or 5 years with Jim Curtin that they are not going to make it an easy game. It's going to be physical. There's going to be a lot of direct balls, and yeah, there was a lot of contact tonight, and obviously you weren't really sure what was going to be called a foul and what wasn't. So that's part of the game. That's part of getting on with it. That's part of making sure that when the game does get physical, you don't back down. And so I'm really proud of our group. I thought we didn't back down from the physicality that was obviously occurring on the field. And, that's, I think, a little bit of playoff soccer. We know Philly is a good team. We know that they're going to be in and around the playoff spots, just like we know we'll be there. So felt like two good teams going at it. It's just tonight, the fine margins, they went Philly's way. And in MLS, the margins are really thin. So we'll have to turn those margins in our favor here coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Dax,
what you think the approach will be going into this Saturday's matchup from your perspective, not only just the whole team, but from your perspective?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I haven't even had a chance to think about that. Both our fullbacks got red carded tonight, so that's a conundrum for the boss to solve. I know that whatever game plan the coaching staff comes up with, we'll be ready to execute it. We know that we're going to the best team in the league at this moment in time, leaders in the Supporter Shield race. They came to Nashville and beat us 1-0. So we've got full respect for what they're capable of, full respect for what their team is and how well they're doing this year. But I've talked about it before. We have full faith in our depth. And anytime you lose two extremely good players, and Dan Lovitz and Shaq Moore, obviously I'm not going to sit here and pretend like they're not massive parts of our team. That's going to take some adjusting to. So whatever game plan the coaches come up with, I know we will recover as best we can tomorrow, go over a game plan tomorrow and Friday, and we'll be ready to step on the field and give them a game. I know we're going to have a lot of people from Nashville traveling up to Cincinnati, so I'm excited for the game, and I'm excited for the possibility of taking back 3 points from them at their home turf.